Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys had a good Sabbath day. It's Sunday. It's a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a good week though. God's been very good. It's been a bit tough to figure out a topic for this week. Fun fact, this is my third attempt shooting this video. I tried earlier today. I just couldn't get it right. I don't know, I have a certain expectation for all this, and it's just wasn't flowing how I thought it'd flow. It wasn't going how I thought how I wanted it to go. And so I got frustrated, and I ended up being late for church, so I went to UV service, kind of got my bearings about me, and I drove back home. I just had a lot of time to think. Ironically, today's topic is instant gratification. And it's perfect that it happened the way it did because I can give a little bit of a different example. So, instant gratification is the desire for something now without thinking about the repercussions or the consequences of said thing. A relationship, monetary status, home, food, any of those things you can want right now, but we often don't think of the damage that comes with it. And today's struggle for me was wanting to film this video and have it out just like that. My first video was very, I think it's pretty good. It's really good. It's off the cuff, natural, organic, which is kind of like the way I like to do things, because this channel is supposed to feel like a conversation. Of course, I'm doing the yapping, sorry. But this is how I kind of envisioned it. It's how I like to come across, organic, off the cuff. This video has a whole lot of notes and a whole lot of studying to it. And so it was hard. It was hard to get used to doing that. I watch other content creators on YouTube who do the same thing, talk about similar things, but have the same YouTube format set up, called by God people. I often struggle comparing myself to them. They have a channel with X amount of subscribers, viewership. That's not what I'm comparing. I'm comparing the content, the quality, the mic setup, all that. I want to be there. I want to be there now. It's not a bad thing to want, but that's not how it needs to go. It's a process of time. Anything worth having in life is going to take time. And oftentimes God's going to put us through some situations, some learning experiences, some trials and tribulations to get to that point before we have that blessing that He's put before us. Just like how before you get to games, you have a summer's worth of practices and workouts before you get to suit up and put on that jersey or get in that car or do whatever, hop on that horse. You have all this work to do. And it's an investment. It's delaying gratification. Investing is delaying gratification. You put in money now in the hopes and the idea that it's going to return greatly later. Okay, you're not having your money now. You're not having your return now. Give it 30, 40, 50 years. Pull it out for your retirement fund or what have you. Anyway, this is going completely different than I had originally thought. And that's okay, because where I want to be is a process of time. I have to tell myself to delay the gratification, to not spend the money on a really nice setup, to remind myself that it's a process of time and dedication and work and commitment and reps and reps and reps before I get to where I want to be. And I might have some blessings along the way of leaps and bounds in the process of making these videos. I become easier on speech. Maybe I get myself a little teleprompter so I can look at my notes. But as for right now, I need to be content with where I'm at to bring this message to y'all in the way that God wants me to. And that's okay. That's 100% fine. We don't have to have it right now. So I guess today's old truth is being patient and not wanting instant gratification, or not succumbing to the lust of the flesh of instant gratification. Okay, it's going to take time. Anything worth having, anything good is going to take time, and that's just simply it. A biblical example I want to highlight here in my notes is Joseph. Okay, so I spent the week searching for somebody in the Bible who had a situation that could have been succumbed to instant gratification, who could have jumped the gun with God, but who didn't, and who chose to follow him and trust him. See, something to understand about our lives, the gratification we receive is often blessings, and those blessings require us to be ready for them. Oftentimes we want the blessing and we're not ready, whether that be a spouse, a child, a home, a place to live, a certain lifestyle. We're not ready because we haven't gone through the emotional, the internal reps to receive said blessing. You know, like if you gave me, like for example, I love cars. So if you gave me a supercar now, I simply would not be ready because I've not worked my way up the ladder. Yeah, sure, I've driven some pretty nice cars in my life, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to own one and ready for the maintenance and everything that comes with the damage. See, we only highlight the good that comes with the blessing, but we don't think of the maintenance that comes with it. You know, like if I bought a Lamborghini, or if someone gave me a Lamborghini today, that's several thousand in insurance. Okay, that's lots of gas. I have to put in 93 octane or higher. I have to get used to being watched a bit more, and I myself am a lead foot, so that wouldn't be good for me right now. I have to learn, I have to slowly work my way up, maybe go from a BMW to, you know, Porsche to the Lamborghini, whatever happens. You know, you gotta work up to it. So today's example, sorry, that was a little tangent. I love my cars. I can't lie. But today's example is Joseph. Now, Joseph was a man. He was the son of Jacob, if you remember the Jacob and Esau story, all right? Esau. So he's Esau's nephew, Jacob's son. He's the favorite. He's the favorite son of Jacob. And he had a gift from God to interpret dreams. He also had several brothers. And because he was the favorite, he wasn't well liked by his brothers. His dad absolutely loved him, but his brothers were not too fond of him. So if you look at the storyline, right, it goes Jacob being so great in his father's eyes to the point where he was trusted and his father gave him special treatment, right? Yeah, he also had special, what's it called? He had special favor from God to receive dreams and to talk and interpret dreams. The brothers didn't like this for a couple reasons. One, he was younger than them. And two, they thought that they should have what he has. Okay? The Lord gave him a dream and told him in the dream, basically, that he's going to rule over his family. And he's going to be set apart and set higher. The brothers naturally didn't like that. But unnaturally, well actually naturally they decided to do something about it. Unnaturally, they ended up selling him into slavery. So here we have a promise from God. And Joseph is so high in his father's house to now he is sold into slavery. While he's there as a slave, he is continuing to be blessed by God, and everything he touches prospers. It almost sounds like he has a Midas touch. You know, everything he just touches seems to turn to gold. So his master Potiphar, which was the captain of the guards of Pharaoh's. So imagine Pharaoh, Potiphar, guards, Joseph. Joseph was a servant of Potiphar. And he was so good that Potiphar gave him his whole household to oversee. Everything. It was to the point where Potiphar, all he had to worry about was what he had to eat. Okay? All Potiphar knew was the bread he had to feed himself. Joseph handled the rest. Story goes on. Potiphar's wife tries to sleep with Joseph. Joseph flees, but before fleeing, he kind of explains to her that I'm the most trusted man in this household. He's given me literally everything except for you. I'm not going to break that. It'd be against God, and it would be against my master. Eventually, she catches him physically. He gets out of Dodge, leaves his coat behind. She uses that as evidence and collateral for some attempted sexual assault allegations, rape allegations, what have you. And yeah, he got sent into prison. At this point, this is where me, if I was Joseph, would struggle a lot. Simply because to go from highest in my father's house to slave, to highest in this house to prisoner, I would start to be questioning God. I'd have some questions for God with a whole lot of 4-letter words, and none of them would be jail. Okay, rewind. Slave, now he's a prisoner. I'm not sure how much lower you can get as in a slave than a prisoner. Okay, first of all, you're sold in slavery and then you're a prisoner. That's crazy. That's insane. That's insanely low in society. Yet somehow, through God's providence and through God's mercy and the gifts God's given him, he's able to excel where he's at. Again, in the lowest of low places, he is head of the prisoners, okay? He kind of runs, I don't know if y'all have ever seen, what's it called? Prison Break. Sorry, I had to pause this to look it up because it was driving me nuts. I don't know if y'all ever seen Prison Break, but in the show they have this little group of guys that does like yard work, that does maintenance, okay? Joseph was the head of all those guys, okay? In the show, Michael Scofield's kind of the ringleader of all that. So you can kind of think of Joseph as a Michael Scofield. He excelled so great due to God's mercy and God's providence. And if you notice that there's a trend here, okay? Highest in his father's house, highest in Potiphar's house, now he's highest in the prison, ruling over people. And if you look, you can begin to see an outline of how God is using him and shaping him for a certain role in society that he's going to have to play. We don't know until a couple chapters later what that role is. But still, he's shaping him. Also, I want to highlight Joseph's attitude through this all seems to be pretty tame, pretty calm, pretty subdued. And I think that can be attributed to the fact that he remembers God's gift. He can see God moving and working all the time. So therefore, he's nothing to fear. No matter where God puts him, he's excelling greatly. And I think that's true for any of us. I wrote a little phrase down. It said, use properly, the gifts of God will help you excel wherever you are and fulfill his will for you. So whatever God's will is for you, if you use your skills right and your gifts right, he's going to excel and make it prosper and use it to advance his kingdom here on this earth. So where are we? Where are we in the story? Oh yeah, so prisoner, right, he's highest. 2 guys come in, the chief baker and the chief of butlers. Okay, they got into some trouble with Pharaoh. I don't know how much time goes on. They have this dream, and both of the dreams are symbolic, and they're a bit upset because there's no interpreter. Joseph peeps game, locks in, realizes, I have this gift from God. Let me help y'all. So he says, are not all dreams from God? Like, is this not something from God? Like, as this is a gift from God and this dream is from God, let me help y'all. So they tell him his dream. It's revealed to them. So let's start with the butler. The butler. So the butler had a dream, and it was Joseph revealed and explained to him that he's going to spend 3 more days in prison, then his job will be restored, right? His dream went something along the lines of he was squeezing grapes into the cup, into Pharaoh's cup for wine, and then he was holding the cup again. And Joseph said, okay, therefore this dream means in 3 days you'll be restored to your former duties. You're going to resume business as usual. Good. Now, let's move on to the baker, okay? And the baker tells him these dreams, all right, in Genesis chapter 40, verses 16, and onward on to 18, okay? I'll stop there. So, when the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I have 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and he shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. Yikes. So, Butler got a blessing, Baker not so much. Time goes on, sure enough, comes to pass. It happens, alright? Both men's dreams are fulfilled, but not before Joseph had reminded them, hey, when y'all get out of here, put in a good word for me. Tell Pharaoh about me, I'm down here, okay? Baker gets hanged, Butler resumes duty. Unfortunately, he forgets Joseph. Some while later, Pharaoh has a dream, okay? In this dream, Pharaoh had the visions of a famine, okay? The dream was made out to be, it was about the famine. But Pharaoh didn't know this yet, and it was disturbing him. So he called up all the interpreters of all the lands of Egypt to interpret this dream for him. No one could do it. The butler, overhearing his distress, was like, oh yeah, there's this guy down in prison, Joseph, yeah, really cool guy. He interpreted my dream, actually told me about this job I'm currently doing right now, and told me about this moment. I forgot about him, but go check cell C15. He should be in there. So go to check cell C15. Not actually, just kind of ad-libbing here. Check cell C15. Boom, there he is. Pharaoh's like, bring him on up. So Joseph gets a change of clothes, clean shaven, goes before Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him his dream. He tells him that, okay, this is the meaning of the dream, that there will be 7 good years of plenty and 7 years of famine. During those 7 years of plenty, you need to put a godly man in power, to put officers below him to make sure that this famine doesn't kill the people in the 7 years, because it's going to be so great that people are going to forget the good and plenty years. And so Pharaoh's like, well, if I have to put a godly man up here, and you're godly enough to interpret my dreams, I think it clearly should be you. So again, here's Joseph, right? Down, prison, up. Pharaoh made him so high and mighty, he was like the vice president pretty much, okay? He had everything. He rode in the 2nd chariot. Now back in those days, to have 1 chariot was pretty something pretty sweet, okay? He had to ride in the 2nd chariot. The 2nd chariot. He played 2nd fiddle to Pharaoh. That's a pretty big deal. And he was overseer over all the land, and he did all the business, all the governing, all the food gathering, all the harvesting, everything to prepare for this famine. And, you know, the dreams came to pass. The 7 years of plenty, then the 7 years of famine came. Joseph had it all squared away. Boom. If you see here, phase 1 is complete. Alright, so here I have constructed a little bit map of Joseph's life so far, and just the peaks and the valleys of what's gone on so far, right? So here we have birth, okay? Father's favorite, boom, betrayed and sold into slavery. Watch brothers, ouch. Look, okay, look, peaks are getting higher. Potiphar's chief secretary, Awesome. Boom. False rape allegations. Falsely imprisoned. Then he gets, oh, I forgot one. Prison boss. Okay. A little carrot in between there, yeah? Alright, so there's that stop, right? And then there wasn't really a dip in there. I mean, I guess you could say he was forgotten for a little second. And then right back up. Boom, Pharaoh's right-hand man. Okay? And then eventually, and this is where I'm at now, continue the story. Lost my train of thought. So the famine's going on. Eventually, Joseph's brothers have to come over to Egypt and be like, yo, we need some food. Let's go to Pharaoh, ask him for food. Long story short, they came to Joseph. They didn't recognize Joseph. Eventually, Joseph pulled a little bit of shenanigans. I could tell he was wrestling internally with some feelings and emotions. But eventually, he kept his family alive, and he moved them all there. It's like, yo, bro, this is me, the one that you sold in slavery? Yeah, I'm here now. And the Lord has helped me fulfill the prophecy, the one that I originally told where I'd be ruler over y'all. Well, now I'm living. Your life is in my hands. Sorry, got a frame for a second. Your life is living in my hands. So that's this original dream prophecy fulfilled. It was fulfilled. Now, this doesn't happen without some peaks and valleys, and similar in our lives, okay? If we want to get from point A to Z, or A to whatever letter you want to put in there, we have to be content and wait and bide our time and not seek the instant gratification. At a lot of these points, Joseph could have crashed out and been like, yo, God, like, what's going on, right? Sold into slavery. He could have been like, no. He could totally resist that, but no, he used that and let the Lord use him to get him here. By Joseph's own volition and his own work, he's not getting here. This doesn't happen by just your own willpower, okay? This is clearly the hand of God. Okay, same in here. See, false allegations, those are pretty tough to, by any stretch, those are tough. Any sort of false allegations. But to go from that to the prison boss, are you kidding me? Notice, okay, Joseph's attitude. It doesn't say much about his attitude, but one thing can be for certain. It would take an unfathomable amount of faith in God to be put through all those situations and come out victorious on top. Yet we ourselves, even today, we can still reach that level of faith. That is completely achievable. Joseph was no different, no special than each and every one of us, other than the fact that he was highly favored by his dad. Some of y'all might be, I don't know. Okay, but somebody sees high favor in you. So trust him. Trust his plan. Don't seek the instantly gratifying outcome. Okay, don't always run off and do things that you want to do right now, because it'll hurt you in the long run. So I told you a story about Joseph. Let me tell you a little story of my own personal gratification story. I wanted somebody so bad, but I wasn't ready for him. And that's a tough thing to come to terms with. It wasn't all bad, because it helped me grow so much. But because I wasn't patient in God's timing, because I wanted to be instantly gratified with a blessing which I knew was to come, I made it a whole lot harder to obtain that blessing. And so now, in my own personal life, I have to learn and grow so much more beyond who I was to get to where I am going now. And there's a lot of extra steps that had I just stayed in God's will and followed him as I was supposed to, I wouldn't have to do a lot of those things. I wouldn't have hurt the people I've hurt, and I wouldn't have caused the heartache, and I wouldn't have an aching heart of my own had I not sought the instant gratification. And the thing is, instant gratification, like the things that we're seeking, aren't always bad. A relationship that you're seeking isn't always bad, it just might not be the right time. A job might not be a bad job to have, it's just not the right time because you don't have the skill set, okay? Bide your time and be comfortable with it, and just know that God is always in control. And pray to Him, talk to Him, and He will bless you with what He has in store for you, okay? Not necessarily always what you want and what your heart wants, but what you need, what He has in store for you. So yeah, there's today's lesson on instant gratification. Thank you so much for tuning in. Watch this YouTube video. This one was a bit hard to produce, as I said. Third time's a charm. It's currently 1 a.m. I think I'm just kind of like a night producer. I don't know. Late night, get in my bag type guy. But hopefully the next one will be the AM, better lighting and stuff. Just a little example of what's going on as far as I'll give you a little snippet of where I'm at in life and where I know this is gonna go. So just bear with me, okay? Actually, I'm gonna show you the setup currently what I'm filming on. Okay, so this is my current setup to film on. This is currently what I'm working with. I could look at what I have now and look at God and say like, hey, I need better. But the thing is, God's always gonna make sure you have what you need to fulfill His will, okay? Not to fulfill your heart's desires, but His will. Now, as you get closer to God, our heart's desires will become His will, okay? It says that in scriptures. I'm gonna link that verse, or I'm just putting the notes down below, or in the comment, yeah, whatever, however this YouTube thing works. But let me just give you a little quick tour. Okay, so you're filming on my phone. It's vlog style, I guess. In my apartment. So this is my cool little chair. Okay, first of all, I keep looking at my wrist. I'm doing everything on my Apple Watch. I have no teleprompter, no little clicker thing to stop, start, film. I'm sitting in this chair. This footrest is my, kind of my table for my notes. You're sitting on an ironing board, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you're sitting on an ironing board. Ice pack to keep my phone from overheating. This is my stand to keep everything on. This is the hat I wore to church today. This is my phone case. Actually, no, this anyway. iPad for notes. Clean marker. You feel me? Like, you're sitting in my apartment. All right, my apartment's pretty barren. Okay, there's nothing really going on in here. This little glimpse of my life, but that's not what matters. What matters is what God has me going on. The fact that I can still produce and talk about His word in such a strong and potentially powerful way that's going to impact y'all's lives with this setup proves that God can make you prosper wherever you're at in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, God loves you. Jesus loves you. God is great. I think with that, we're going to call that a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.